Welcome back into the Morning Rush. We've talked about this a little this week. Yahoo Sports released a mock draft that had Mason Jones above Isaiah Joe. And we've got actually now the person and our next guest who wrote that mock draft. It's Krysten Peek. She covers basketball at all three levels for Rivals and Yahoo Sports. Krysten, really appreciate your time this morning. I've looked at mock drafts extensively. You're the singular one that I've seen that has had Mason Jones above Isaiah Joe. Why is that?
I mean, when you reached out to me and that's the way you preface, will you come on the show and basically defend why you have Mason above Isaiah? I'm like, okay, all right. I can totally understand that because you look at Isaiah and he is a pure shooter. You know what I mean? And that's what the NBA is gearing towards. But I think Mason is a big-time sleeper in this draft. And people are underestimating what teams are looking for in this draft class specifically. I mean, it's not a very strong draft class. There's going to be a lot of surprises. I don't even think Anthony Edwards is a complete lock at number one, even though I have him at number one. You know, so there's a lot of question marks, and it just takes one team. You know what I mean? It takes one team. Look what happened last year with Cam Johnson from North Carolina getting picked 11 by Phoenix when everyone thought he was going to be a late first round, early second round. So with mock drafts, this is how inconsistent this college basketball season has been. In previous mock drafts, I think I had Isaiah either late first round or early second round. So it's always going to be movement. I mean, nobody thought last year Bol was going to drop to 44. Mm-hmm. So it's all just a guessing game, and sometimes I just like to mix it up.
And I think this upcoming draft is even going to be more inconsistent with our thinking because of what's going on with coronavirus, less in-person evaluations and stuff like that. And Krysten, if I came off as attacking you, why you have that wasn't my intention.
I deal with it every day, Krysten. I know how he was.
It's more of like appreciation for you actually recognizing his game, because as Arkansas sports radio host, it seems like whether it was in the SEC across college basketball, Mason was consistently overlooked. So for you to have him as high as you do in your mock draft, it was more of an appreciation and a happiness because it's seldom seen. What are some of the biggest attributes that you've recognized with Mason Jones this past season?
I mean, you hit it right on the nail of the nose. Like, he led a very competitive SEC in scoring, averaging 22 points per game. Mind you, he was number one. The guy that will probably go number one, Anthony Edwards, was number 3. So it just kind of shows you how dominant he was. And I think one of the best, most competitive SEC seasons I've seen in a while, with the talent that is all over, that is across the board. And he just does it at every level. He can get to the rim. He's got a great mid-range jumper, and he can hit the three. And when you look at Isaiah, I mean, he's a high-volume shooter. He puts up a lot of threes. Which is a good thing and bad thing. I mean, I counted, and there were 18 out of 26 of the games, he shot 10 or more threes. Okay, and he's not making 9 out of 10 of those threes. So I think NBA teams, they look at more consistency. And Mason Jones is a very consistent player, and that's why I think he is a great steal in the mid-second round.
Has the mocking process going through and putting together a draft, how has that changed for you and people that cover this part of college basketball? How much more difficult has your job been with coronavirus and the lockdowns we've been under? How's it changed your job?
Let me tell you something. I watched a lot of really bad basketball this season to prepare for the NCAA tournament, to prepare for everything afterwards, to find that gem, that person that was going to emerge for the draft for NBA teams, and from November until March. And then just to have the tournament end, it was just kind of like, what? But what has been really nice is it's given me more time to talk to NBA teams and find out what players they're looking at and who they're talking to. And so it's given me more insight on these mock drafts and the type of players that they want to fill up their rosters, because it's all about fit. And there's a lot of uncertainty in this draft. I don't know. It's a bad draft. We'll just call a spade a spade. It's a bad draft this year. You
mentioned that no March Madness, and we all missed that for a lot of reasons. No NBA season, at least to this point. How is not being able to see the end of the NBA season, how those rosters were managed, how moves were made, how has that affected your evaluation and how to line up a draft?
I know everything is just on hold right now. Like I normally am on the road 150 to 180 days a year. So this is the longest time ever in my career that I've been off the road. And that's how it is for everyone. And in terms of, everyone's just on pause. Like agents aren't letting us reporters talk to the draft prospects. Teams are only allowed to do Zoom calls, but they're all very, they're not long. They're not releasing medicals. They're not allowing workouts. The combine was actually supposed to be this past weekend. So everything's just on hold. And when I talk to teams, what they tell me is, look, there has to be some sort of end to the NBA season. There has to before there's a draft. So what they're maybe forecasting is that the draft will take place either late August or early September.
Talking with Krysten Peek here on the Morning Rush, covers basketball for Rivals and Yahoo Sports. Krysten, along the lines of what Tommy's talking about as far as effect, when you're talking with college players that are on the brink of, hey, they're going to take their shot at the pros or they're going to come back, how do you think the coronavirus has affected their decision one way or another?
I think it's more the players. They look at, okay, if you're going to be an upperclassman next year and you are looking at this wave of talent coming in the recruiting class coming in, and you know that there's a ton of one and dones in that class, it's more along the lines of, what are my best options? I might not get drafted this year, but maybe I'll get a two-way. If I wait till next year, I risk injury, and I also risk not even getting looked at, because the next year's draft class, the players coming up next year, is so deep and so talented. So I don't know if the coronavirus is affecting decision-making on that front, because the new thing to do is just to get paid. By any means necessary. No one, if you are serious about basketball, no one cares about a degree. Let's be honest. So I think it's more looking at their options in the future than the coronavirus and what's happening now.
Krysten, on that note, we know about Jalen Green accepting the $500,000 to play at the G League level. How is that going to affect college basketball, the NBA, and the G League going after some blue chippers right out of high school?
It's a huge threat to the college game. I don't think college basketball will ever not be what it is, because March Madness is a great event and fans love that. But in terms of seeing players like Zion Williamson 1 year at Duke and fans getting that close look at him, Jalen Green was probably going to go to Memphis, and now those fans aren't going to get that look at him, as students and peers. So I think it's a huge threat. I also think not only for college basketball, but for overseas. Because we saw LaMelo Ball and RJ Hampton, lottery picks, have to go play in Australia last year. So that's not going to happen anymore. This G League select team has really maneuvered and made a path for these players that want to get paid right away to have that option and to get in the NBA sooner. And it's in a great city. It's in Los Angeles. It's not, we're not talking about, we're not in, I don't want to offend anybody listening, but we're not in Kansas or Nebraska or something, so it's a great location and it's really appealing.
Yeah, we're not in Kansas anymore. I want to go back to something you said with the timing with the NBA draft, because you said, talking to your sources in the NBA, they thought maybe the draft could be pushed out at, what'd you say, as late as August, September?
Yep.
Okay, so how does that affect a player like Isaiah Joe, who originally the deadline was, June 3rd to pull your name back out? That's now been put off indefinitely, but obviously fall semester in school's going to start mid-August. I would think a player like an Isaiah Joe who's testing the waters, getting the feedback, you've got to make a choice. Am I enrolling for fall semester or holding out for the draft? What's the timing going to be like? Because if the draft's pushed off, all these decision timelines are pushed off until fall semester starts, and then you got to make a jump.
No, 100%. And that's, this is the unprecedented time. We've never been through this. And so making that decision, whether or not you're going to go back to school or stay in the draft, it's probably a conversation he's having with coach. It's probably a conversation he's having with his family, and trying to get as much feedback from teams as possible so he can make that decision. I don't think he comes back personally. I think he stays in the draft and kind of, because you said you've seen his name in other mock drafts higher than what I have him. So I think he stays in the draft.
Why do you think he will stay in the draft? Because of those projections, or why is your opinion that he will stay?
I mean, I just think you look at the players coming up next year, you got Moses Moody coming, so he's going to have to be competing with playing time with him on the team. And he might not have, nothing is ever guaranteed, right? So if you're seeing your name in mock drafts and you're getting good feedback from teams and you're getting interest from agents that want to try to help guide you through this situation and they're seeing a comfortable fit in the second round, I think you're smart to stay in the draft.
Talking with Krysten Peek, who covers basketball for Rivals and Yahoo Sports here on the Morning Rush. Krysten, on that note, you mentioned Moses Moody. We're going to get to some more recruiting coming up, but I've seen Moses as high as 13 on some mock drafts for next season. What can you tell us about this high school phenom that played on the number one high school team, not just in the country this past year? Max Prep said it was the number one high school team in the decade. What can you tell us about Moses Moody?
Yeah, that Mount Verde team, man, and I'm on the same page with Max Prep. That is the best high school team I have ever seen in my, 8 years that I've been covering basketball. But Moses he wasn't even the star on that team. We have Cade Cunningham, potential number one pick next year, Daron Sharp, who's going to North Carolina, Scotty Barnes, Florida State. Those three players, and along with Moses, are potential first-round draft picks. They're definitely pros. And to have all four of those players on this one team, they not only went 25-0, but they destroyed every team that they played.
Was it like 30 points average that they won? It was something crazy.
Yes, it was insane. I saw them play. I went down for a few games to see them play this season, and it was just crazy, like just how good this team. And they were playing decent teams, you know what I'm saying? But Moses, I would say he was one of the most improved players. His shooting got better, his confidence, he looks stronger, he's filling out, getting stronger and everything. So I think he's going to be a great addition. And he's been in the shadow for a while, playing with Cade and playing with Scotty. So for him to be able to go to Arkansas and really shine there, he's going to have a great season.
So you mentioned Cade Cunningham, number one recruiting, depending on what service you look at. The other guys, one's going to Michigan, North Carolina, others going to Florida State. So he's playing with a lot of stars. And one of the things that happens sometimes when you play with really good players is you want the ball, selfishness gets in the way, but so many others could speak to the fact that he was unselfish. He was willing to play as others. When he gets to Arkansas, he's going to be the number one guy, I think. I'm under the impression of that. How do you think he changes and molds his game when he's the number one option on this Arkansas basketball team?
I think for him, it's just kind of like, finally, he's got the confidence. He's been playing with top talent. I think coming in knowing, all right, I went against Cade Cunningham. I went against the projected number one draft pick next year, every day in practice for 2 straight years. Like that should give a player a lot of confidence. And not only him, but like every other D1 player that you just listed, he competed against every day in practice, not only played alongside them, but went head to head with them. So I think it's going to be more of it's my time to shine. I'm ready, because he's got the confidence, he's got the skill, he's got all the tools.
Krysten, not having the post-draft summer leagues like in Vegas or Orlando like the NBA has done before, how does that affect those players trying to develop their value, increase their value, find their slot in an organization? Not having that this summer, how does that change the outlook for some of these players making this evaluation?
Yeah, it's tough because you really just got to be more dependent on yourself. And are you playing video games all day? Are you eating healthy? Are you getting into the gym? Are you getting shots up? So because I think the players that are using this time wisely to get better instead of just sitting around and waiting like the rest of us for things to get back to normal, those are going to be the players that prosper. Like I talked to Jason Tatum, I did a story on him, and I said, and it was about a month out of when everything shut down. And I said, well, are you working out? And he said, I haven't taken one shot since our last game. So when you hear that from a player like Jason Tatum, who is one of the best players in the Eastern Conference, as an up and coming all-star, it makes me think, okay, if Jason isn't getting shots up, what are these players that are trying to actually make an NBA roster? What are they doing with their time right now? So yeah, I think it's going to hurt a lot of players that could have excelled and proven themselves to be valuable assets on teams, if it was a regular season.
We're talking with Krysten Peek, covers basketball for Rivals and Yahoo Sports here on the Morning Rush. Krysten, you wanted to talk about some of the players, and I just want to ask, as a person that covers basketball nationally, what has Eric Musselman done of the perception for Arkansas basketball recruiting?
Oh, man, I think it gives them, since he's already coached on the West Coast, it helps tremendously with the players out here. He's a very personable coach. I think his recruiting is more along the lines of getting to actually know the families and bringing that family environment so the players and the mothers and the guardians feel comfortable when they send their child to college, you know. So he's just a very respected coach. I was talking to Peyton Watson, 5-star wing, who Arkansas just offered, and he said when he got the offer, it was during a virtual tour, and he said I felt like I had to show Coach respect, so I didn't say anything. I didn't tweet it or anything. I waited until the tour was over before I said anything because he was so plugged into what Coach was saying.
Harrison Ingram out of Dallas St. Mark's is a guy that Arkansas fans have been keeping an eye on. 2022 in-state classes loaded here in Arkansas. What are some other players, either this upcoming season or the next year, high school recruits-wise, that Arkansas fans should be attentive to?
Oh, man. This upcoming year, I'm not too thrilled about the incoming senior class. I think it's a little bit less on the talented side. But as you start to get younger, you know, guys like Sky Clark, who just moved from California out to Nashville, so he's a little bit closer. He's probably one of the best point guards I've seen, regardless of class. I think DJ Wagner, an incoming sophomore, who is DeJuan Wagner's son, is the best point guard I've seen for his class. And then also Jabari Smith out of Atlanta. I don't know if any of these players have been offered by Arkansas, but those three specifically, when I see them, I say, you're a pro, you're a pro, you're a pro.
Krysten, last question before we let you go. It's been basketball-centered this whole time, but we typically like to talk food on this show. We're in the South. We love our food. It is National Biscuit Day. What is your favorite biscuit or favorite restaurant that you've ever been to that has the best biscuits in town? You bring up Nashville. I used to live there. Biscuit Love. There was the Loveless Cafe. I mean, there's some great spots that I've been to with dynamite biscuits. What's the one for Kristen's money?
Oh, man. I love biscuits. I love them. I love that it's National Biscuit Day. There was a place, a small mom and pop place. I went to a Duke game, so it was in Durham. I cannot remember the name of it, but it was the best biscuit I've ever had.
Krysten Peek covers basketball for Rivals and Yahoo Sports at all three levels, high school, college, NBA. Krysten, thanks for making some time for us here on The Morning Rush.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.